Hey everyone, welcome back to Thoughtmosphere. Hope everyone is doing okay. Today we'll be looking at how do you use on-chain data to predict Bitcoin's price movement. So quick disclaimer, nothing I say is financial advice. And what is on-chain data? On-chain data is basically analyzing transactions and data that's on the blockchain directly to see what's happening and to forecast price movement. So here are some on-chain data providers that you can take a look at: Glassnode, CryptoQuant, and Chainalysis. Some of them are premium, but some of them do have certain free tiers available as well. Okay, here are some of the common metrics that I use. I'll just go through them one by one. So the main one that I look at is all exchange reserves. So all exchange reserves is basically the amount of Bitcoin held in all exchanges. So if you take a look at CryptoQuant, you will notice that the amount of Bitcoin in exchanges started to drop around July last year, which means that people are actually buying Bitcoin in the exchange and then transferring them off the exchange into their own cold wallet possibly. So if there are lesser amount of Bitcoin in exchanges, it also means that there's lesser amount of Bitcoin that can be sold on the exchange, which could cause the price to drop. But we did see an increase in Bitcoin in exchanges, in all exchanges, around April. Right, that was also where we start to see the price of Bitcoin unable to achieve new high. So as more Bitcoin enter exchanges, it potentially could be for selling purposes. So that could cause the price of Bitcoin to go down. And that's why you see that when the amount of Bitcoin goes up, the price could potentially start going down. So something to take note of. Okay, the next one that I look at is spot exchange reserves. So spot exchange reserves is similar to all exchange, but it's for exchanges that do not have derivative products. So this is actually a bullish sign where we see the amount of Bitcoin in exchanges just gradually drops, and we didn't actually see it go up. So all exchange also includes spot exchange plus derivative exchange, which is the next one that we're going to look at, right? The next one is basically derivative exchange reserves, the amount of Bitcoin held in, derivative exchange wallets. So derivative exchange is basically an exchange that allows for derivative products such as futures and options and leverage and margin. So these instruments allow for shorting, where you bet that the price of Bitcoin goes down and then you earn money if it does go down. So you notice that derivative exchange reserves actually have a huge rally. It just kept going higher and higher and higher, and then especially where we start to see the price is unable to make a new high, the derivative exchange reserves actually skyrocketed basically. So when Bitcoin enters derivative exchange, it usually only means two things. In general terms, it's they want to go long or they want to go short. This can be done through a variety of methods, including buying and selling put options or call options, but it's generally two things: longing or shorting. So when we see derivative exchange goes up, we need to start to look at whether or not it is going to be meant for longing or shorting, and that's where the next metric that I use comes in, the funding rate. So the funding rate is basically the average funding rate in percent set by exchanges for perpetual futures contracts. So that might sound complicated, but it's quite straightforward actually. It basically means that if the funding rate is green, the more green it is, the more people are longing, the more bullish the market is. And the more red it is, the more people are shorting, the more bearish the market is. But this can also be a contrarian indicator. If the amount of people longing is way too high, then it could mean that the market is in a state of euphoria, which could present opportunities for other players to go and short the market and create what you call a long squeeze, where too many people are longing and then they get liquidated from their position because the price is going down, from the Bitcoin price going down, and then they get liquidated, forcefully selling their positions away, which creates a further cascading effect downwards. So that's what we call a long squeeze. So you'll notice that over here, the funding rate is actually not increasing. It's actually dropping, and this ties in very well with the derivatives exchange reserves starting to go up. So you notice that around February, we had the highest point in the funding rate, And around February here, we also start to see that the Bitcoin reserve starts to go up in derivative exchanges. So this is basically a way to logically assume that when more Bitcoin enters derivative exchanges and the futures rates are starting to drop, the Bitcoin that's entering derivative exchanges is meant for shorting purposes. Yeah, so you could actually see a warning sign over here where the funding rate actually went negative, which means that there was overwhelming short pressure. And this is usually might mean nothing, but it is a warning sign to take note. The real giveaway is when we see that the funding rate just gradually decrease. So this is a sign that the market is getting tired and we might see a reversal, which we did see on May 19th. So that's how you use all these together. And then the next indicator, the next metric I look at is leverage ratio. So leverage ratio is basically the amount of leverage in the systems. Let me see if I can find that chart. Yeah, all exchange estimated leverage ratio. Okay, so basically the higher the leverage is, the more likely that the market is euphoric and the more likely a long squeeze is possible. And usually when it's all the way back down, it means that most longs have been liquidated and the potential for a further long squeeze or downward price movement is minimized. Because if you have all the longs liquidated, you need the long squeeze to send the price crashing down. Without any longs to be squeezed, price usually don't go down as fast or as much, and it usually leads to a certain consolidation period. So that's what I believe we are in right now, a consolidation period. Okay, the last on-chain metrics that I look at is the stablecoin supply ratio. So the stablecoin supply ratio is basically the ratio of Bitcoin's market cap relative to the market cap of stablecoins. Just think of it as a fraction, and then Bitcoin market cap is above, and then stablecoin market cap is below. You want this ratio to be as low as possible, which means that the amount of Bitcoin is very small compared to the amount of stablecoin. This means that the amount of stablecoin, right, can be used to buy up a lot of Bitcoin, which could increase Bitcoin's price. But there is something to take note for this metric. It is not as clear-cut. Some people might assume that when SSR goes lower, it means that the amount of stablecoin ready to buy Bitcoin increases, which is not wrong. But another way to look at this is that you need to have more stablecoins to be minted in order to prepare for a potential dumping of Bitcoin into the market, because you need more stablecoin to absorb Bitcoin's price. So that's just another perspective, because the general perspective is that when more stablecoin is minted, more people want to buy stablecoins to buy Bitcoin. But I believe institutions, when they want to buy Bitcoin, they buy Bitcoin directly. And when retail want to sell Bitcoin, they sell Bitcoin into stablecoins, and the amount of Bitcoin being sold might require new stablecoins to be minted, especially when Bitcoin reaches a very high price. So this ratio can be used as a bullish signal when we start to see the stablecoin supply ratio level off and go up again. So when it starts to go up again, then it's more likely that it's a bullish signal, because the stablecoins are used to buy up Bitcoin, which would increase Bitcoin's market cap. Yeah, so until I see this ratio starts to go up, I wouldn't be overly bullish at the moment. Okay, yeah, those are the 6 on-chain metrics that I use. These are the more basic and simple ones. In future videos, I might cover more advanced or complicated on-chain metrics, but I think for now, these 6 should be quite useful. If you are wondering about the funding rate, you can also find it on TradingView. If you go under funding rate, you might find one that says funding rate for all. And I like to use Binance, because if you look at coin market cap, derivative products, Binance is actually far bigger than everyone else. So Binance is at 63 billion in 24-hour volume, and then OKX is many billions away from it. So I usually just use Binance, and I put an alert whenever it crosses the 0 mark, because usually that might mean that something is happening. Yep. Hope you guys find this video useful, and do remember to like and subscribe if you found it useful. Thank you.